Hi, Robert Chuckrow here. I'm going to talk about my understanding of what is called being in the moment. My definition is that being in the moment is observing, processing all appropriate sense data moment by moment. Sense data is or are all of the information that's coming into your senses at each moment. And the senses are not just your eyes, your ears, sense of smell, etc., but there are senses that we may not even have names for yet. And that sense data is important to be able to process too. We're doing some of it without even realizing it. As you start to become aware of those things, you become much better at recognizing and processing that sense data. So concentration is different from being in the moment. Concentration is mental fixation, which we don't want to do. Being in the moment is free-flowing. Every moment is different. And we're not processing the same thing one moment that we are the next, or we're observing. But what happens is even though it jumps moment by moment, actually maybe a 50th of a second by a 50th of a second, a bundle of information is sent to the brain. Even though it's not continuous, our memory smooths it over. So we have this sense of continuity. But what I'm processing from one moment to the next is going to be different. So the thing about it is there's much more sense data coming in than we can even begin to process. So we have to be selective. We are without even knowing we are. And I remember reading about an experiment with a cat, and they attached electrodes to the head to measure what was going on in the brain. This is a long time ago, maybe before they had the abilities that they have now. And when the cat was sleeping, the experimenters made different sounds. Pots and pans clanging as you wash dishes, people walking around, maybe music playing. There was no processing of that information. You could tell, they knew that sense data was coming to the brain through the nerves, but it wasn't being processed by the brain. As soon as the observers created the sound of a kitten crying or meowing, immediately that was processed. The cat would jump up. So we are selective, and the training that we get in martial arts teaches us, or other disciplines, teaches us to be more selective and to be more appropriate in our selectivity. And when we do Tai-Chi, remember Tai-Chi is a martial art originally, and if somebody who's being attacked is not in the moment, they're in the past or the future. When they're in the future, this present moment goes by as well as if they're in the past. So then they're in the past at that point. You could be killed because the opponent will have an advantage. So being in the moment is extremely important. When you're driving, extremely important. If you're going 60 miles an hour, you're moving 88 feet every second. So by blanking out for 1 second could cost you your life or somebody else's. Very important to be aware of your diversion into other things when you're driving. So when I'm driving and I see myself captured by something that's going on and I'm not watching the road for maybe a split second, I bring myself back and try to, by looking in the mirrors, by looking out of the windows, by forming an image of that encompasses all the cars around me, so that I'm ready to get off the road if I need to, or slam on my brakes or change lanes. And I know I can do any of those things, whatever would be appropriate, based on my knowledge of where all those other cars are at each moment. So this is something that you can train yourself, and should. Same thing when you're doing the form. You're training yourself to be able to connect to what it is that's happening inside, but some of it is happening outside, and connecting to all of that, and not going into another world. The example I use is, let's say I leave the house and I lock the door, and I'm really not paying too much attention, because I've done it so many times. I can do it without even being aware I am. Get into my car, drive. 10 minutes later, did I lock the door? I can't remember. Maybe I even have to go back. But if when I put the key in the door, I feel that happening, turn the key, feel the resistance, hear the lock snap, turn it back, bring the key out, put it in my pocket, and I'm processing all of that. Then 10 minutes later, when I'm in my car, and ask myself that question, of course I did. I remember all those things. So it's what you process that will persist when you need it, and in the form of memory later. So whatever you practice, you get good at. If you practice being out to lunch, having your mind be out to lunch, you're going to get good at that. The ability to be in the moment will atrophy. If you practice being in the moment, you'll get good at that, and that's the goal. Thank you.